Welcome to Beyond Sundays, a podcast from two friends trying to follow Jesus more closely. Odds are you won't always agree with us, and we'll stumble along the way, but we promise to be open and honest all the way through. I'm Matt here with Hannah. We've got a website you can use to keep our show links and socials all in one place. Check out beyondsundays.pod.com. We're grateful for all of our listeners and genuinely thank you for fitting us into your busy life. You can help us grow the community by following, rating, and reviewing us on Apple and Spotify. Welcome to all of our new listeners. If you have not had a chance to follow, rate, and review us on Apple and Spotify, it helps. It seems dumb, but man, it helps in helps in the race. We have the best community. Hannah, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I am happy it's Wednesday. This is my long day of the week.
Same.
But yes, the longest day. But it's a good day. I get to see the youth kids tonight, and I'm really excited. We have a youth girl speaking tonight, so I'm excited for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is also my long day, and you just write a lot of my long day story. We're podcasting on Wednesdays now. You're having me pick people up, so just really you're just
One
all over.
thing after the other. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, on this long day, it was extra long today because I'm driving to work and I got an itch in my right eye and I reached up and I didn't I wear contacts. So I know how to itch my eye and how not to itch my eye. So I just want to
Sure.
tell you, I didn't go like a rabid dog itching at my right eye, but it was dry. So I gave it a little itch and all of a sudden I open my eye, whoop, that contact rolls up into the upper part of my lid. Now,
Oh
I've
my
had that
gosh.
happen before, but I'm driving and I've got Madeline in the car with me, so I can't really I can't really do anything about it. So I've had this happen to me before while driving, so I'm just like closing my eye and driving with my contacted left eye, and then
Yeah.
it's fine. I can drive with it. So I was just having to switch back and forth, and Madeline was looking at me like you're such a moron, and I was like, well, do you want to wreck or not? So I get to school. You don't have contacts or anything, do you?
No, and I forget that you have contacts. Like, are
Yeah.
your eyes that bad?
No, it's not real bad. To be honest, it's complete first world problems. It is like I start to try to read false small font and it gets a little uncomfortable and sometimes it's a little hard for me to read. So I'm just old.
The old people stuff.
And
Yeah.
yeah, old people talk. And so my script is very minimal, but man, it just helps so much clear up that. And
Yeah.
I read a lot of stuff at school. Like I do. It's just part of my job. So
Yeah.
so I'm there and I just tromp down to the main office and I've got some contact solution and the office ladies see me. I do this like once a month. So
Oh
they
my
just like
gosh.
kind of roll their eyes at me and I go back down to get in front of a mirror. I can't get it out. I'm squirting stuff in my eye. Also, maybe this is you. If I have to use eye drops, the psychopaths that can just put the eye drop directly on their eyeball, I don't understand that. I have to like
Why?
put it in the corner and then open my eye and kind of let it leak over. Can you just drop it straight into your eye?
Yeah. Yeah. Now sometimes
No,
I miss, but I kind of
no,
love that. I'm like, dang, this
no.
sensation is kind of good.
Oh my
You don't like
gosh.
the way it feels, or you can't just
No,
get
I
it there.
can't. I'm a child. I can't do it. I can't drop it straight in there. This is the most sociopathic you have ever been on the Beyonce. You just
Oh,
drop it
I don't
straight in.
know about that, but yeah, yeah, 100%. 100% I do. Again, I just feel like it's kind of nice. It's like super refreshing. Yeah. But sometimes I miss my eyeball.
Okay, that's insane. Write into us, beyondsundayspod.com. Go find our email, write into us and tell us if I'm crazy or Hannah's crazy. The obvious objective answer is that Hannah's crazy.
No, I actually think I've never heard anybody do what you do.
Well, I might be crazy, but the fact that you said it's refreshing to have a drop of something external hit your eyeballs completely nuts to
Because
me.
it just feels like it's cleaning it out. You know what I
Well,
mean? It's like a nice,
nope.
nope,
Don't know
get,
what you
nope,
mean.
nope, nope, nope.
So
So
here's the problem, Hannah. I'm in front of this mirror. I run out of time. I can't find it. It's up, so I gotta teach. So I just put on the old spectacles. Okay, got my glasses on. Kids are asking me like, "Why you didn't wear your glasses?" I'm like, well, these are $1 from Dollar Tree, and I just have them on, so it's gonna be fine. So I teach 3 hours a day, and okay, then it's my prep period. I tromp back down to the office, get the stuff again, and the office ladies
yeah.
are like, "My God, what's wrong with this guy?" So go back, can't find it again. FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, meets at lunch. I know it's in there because I can feel it. So Madeline
I mean,
comes
that
into my
sounds
room at
uncomfortable.
lunch. Yeah, it wasn't great. So I'm picking my eyelid up. Madeline's like, "Oh, I see it. I see it." Madeline has approximately 16-inch long nails,
Uh-huh.
like glued
Uh-huh.
on. Which, first of all, I'm scared I'm gonna get like a scratch cornea because I don't know how
Oh,
much.
yeah.
This is like operation at this point. So she can't get it. So another kid standing behind her who has contacts. She's like, "I see it. I'll get it." I'm like, are you sure? Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's got to be
Yeah.
touching my face, my eyeball, and it's just whatever. So I checked with her like 3 times. She was like, yeah, no, no, I get it. She just whoop. She like whips my eyelid up, sticks her finger right in my eye, and gets it out. Done.
No scratches, nothing.
No scratches. I'm good. I can see the Lord is good, and he endures forever and ever.
I am dying over Mads trying to pull that out with those long nails.
Well, like, listen, of all the teenagers in the room, like, number
Of
one, I
course,
wasn't
she's
going to
the
ask
one.
any of the other of them to do
Yeah,
that. And I was like, yeah, sure, that's my kid. And then it's just the kid behind her is like, oh, no, I've done that before. I see it. I'll get it. I'm like, are you
that
sure?
is
Yeah.
hilarious.
So
Absolutely
then she
hilarious.
walked around. I had her later in the day. She just walked around the whole class like, I saved your life. And I was like, well, yeah, you kind of did. So,
Well,
yeah,
kind of,
it's
sorta, yeah.
great.
That sounds super pain. It's like when you get an eyelash in your eye. Let me ask
Oh,
this: does it
mm.
feel like that? Having that contact up there, is that what it feels like? Is like an
At
eyelash?
some point, at least for me, when the contact rolls up there, at some point it's like it nestles in and you can barely
Hmm.
tell it's there anymore. You still kind of can. When I get an eyelash in my eye, that is like an all points bulletin. Like that thing's got to come out now.
Well, that is so painful,
Yes,
so
terrible.
uncomfortable. Yeah, and then you have to figure out how to touch your eye with your finger, and then I've got the nails that Madeline does, and it's just
Mm,
like I can't even open a soda can right now. I feel like so
mm.
I can't imagine trying to get an eyelash or contacts out of my eye.
So
Not
on
working
this
for me.
on this long Wednesday, I was dealing with eye stuff.
Do you have contacts in now?
Yeah, I no, I came home. I threw those away.
Yeah.
And actually, that one when it came out, I like smashed it on the ground. I was mad at it, like a child. And I came home, popped a fresh pair in. So this Beyond Sundays listeners, you're getting fresh Matt's eyes. It's gonna be great.
I don't know why I'm so shocked that you wear contacts. Now that you bring it up, I'm like, okay, I knew that, but I don't know. I'm still
Well, it's
shocked by it.
because you've never seen me go. I never really wore glasses. I
I've never
only
seen you
did
in
it. I
glasses.
only did it when I was reading, and
Hmm.
then it just got to the point where, again, first world problems. I'm like, I don't want to take these on and off all the time. I just want this on my eye all the time, and now it's
Well, I
on.
know
So,
I know one of your brothers wears glasses. Does the other one wear glasses too?
nope, nope,
Perfect vision?
yep,
That's wild.
yep.
Just my
So,
sister, I guess, is the only one. So,
it was a weird day. It's a weird experience.
I'm glad that you made it through.
Thank you.
I'm glad you survived. I'm glad you can still see, and I'm glad you made it here with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know what else is weird?
What?
Genesis chapter 6 is weird.
Um, yes, it's something that I think I tried to avoid lots of times reading the
Oh, do you?
Bible. Yeah, I not for any particular reason. I just didn't know what it meant, or you know what I mean. Like it was just shocking to me.
Listeners, you've grown to love Hannah and just appreciate her love of all things the Bible, and that may shock you that Hannah Piercy is avoiding parts of the Bible because they're uncomfortable to her. So you're asking
Yep.
yourself, what a hook. You're asking yourself, what could possibly be in Genesis chapter 6 that would
Oh.
make Hannah, lover of the Lord, skip? Well,
Oh.
I'm going to read it to you right now. So I've got 4 verses of scripture. Hannah, I'm going to read it, and I'm just going to let you weird out in whatever way you want to, and then we'll go
Okay.
from there. So this is Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. If you want to get ticky-tacky with us, this is the ESV version of the Bible. So when man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God, put a pin in that, saw
Yep.
that the daughters of men were attractive. Oh. And they took as their wives any they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim, put a pin in that too, were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. Okay, Hannah.
So that whole thing is wild to me.
It is
The fact
all of
that
it is wild.
all of it, these sons of they call them sons of God or sons
Sons of
of
God is the
yeah,
English translation, yes.
and literally say they come and they have children with
With the
women.
daughters of men, yes.
Yes. To me it sounds like angels having children. That's my initial thought, having children
We are
with
birthing little demigods in Genesis 6.
which okay, again, this is an open and honest
Yes, it
podcast.
is.
We're just talking and just
This
exploring. It
is an
doesn't
open and
change.
honest podcast. And listeners, you just need to know this is going to be an open and honest conversation and an open and honest episode, and it's going to get weird.
Yes, I start to wonder if some of that Greek mythology
Mm.
was based off of some of this. And for me, that gives some validity, which I already believe the word of God. I don't really have a lot of issue in having faith in the word.
Sure. We're
But
gonna test that today, though.
yeah, we're gonna test it. But it brings some validity to the word, gives even more of like, oh, this is real, because if you have this Greek
Mm.
mythology and it kind of ties in with the word of God, it's just another text that supports that the
Hmm.
word is
So
real.
what you're saying is like cultures outside of the Hebrew culture that have these similar sets of stories to you kind of lends credence to the fact that the Hebrew
Yes.
Bible would also have these kinds of stories. And in some like weird reverse way, it's like the other cultures kind of proving the Bible right.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly how I feel about it. And
Okay.
again, it's not that I think
Yeah.
all of that Greek mythology is real, but
Sure.
it makes me think, okay, well, the Bible even seems to mention something wild about like demigods,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
seems.
Seems
So
to.
I, it's weird. It's one of those things you read in the Bible and you're like, okay, what happens next in this story? Because it goes on to talk about Noah,
It
right?
does. It does.
Yeah.
This is
So,
exactly the next thing that happens is the flood. Yes.
oh, let me ask one more thing or say
Yeah.
one
Okay.
more thing.
Okay.
The 120 years.
Hmm.
So, we know before that there were the people that were living 800, 900
Oh yeah.
years.
Yeah.
I wonder, is there anyone in modern day that has reached
Oh, I'm
120?
so glad that you asked this because
Oh,
I'll do super fast. Every day to start my classes, I start with a map or a chart or a graph of the day. Most of the time it has nothing to do with class. It's just I put it on the board. Hey, let me get your
yeah.
attention. We're going to talk about this. So we just did. You know what? I want you to guess this. How many people from 1850 to 2000 to present, 2025, how many people live to be 110 years old? From 1850 to 2025. Now, these are validated people. They have their birth certificate. You know what I mean? It's not like that dude looks super old. Let's ask him how old he is. And he's just like, well, 109.
I'm going to say 30. Is that
Okay.
absurd?
1,859 people live to be 110 years old from 1850 to 2025. And then
Oh,
I was shown
okay.
this graph in class. And of course, it gets the number gets less the longer that people live. There is a woman in France who lived to be 122.
What?
Yes. So Hannah, is the Bible fake?
No.
Well, God said you only live 20 years, and old girl in France lived to be 122.
Okay. Can you read that scripture again? The exactly what it says with the 120?
It
Do you
says,
have it?
My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. She
I
was
mean, she still lived
122.
120. I mean, it's still in the 20s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think this is not like God. I think sometimes we take these things and like it's like God
Just
has a
literal.
stopwatch out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it's just a roundabout figure.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you point that out. I'm going to go ahead and hit this while we're here. This 120 years thing is very interesting because you start to ask yourself, well, that is such a random detail. Why does that even? It doesn't even feel like it fits in because we're
Yeah.
just talking about the sons of God and the daughters of men, and these people being born. But I wonder if these offspring of the sons of man and the daughters of men, are they because if one of their parents is eternal and angelic, is this going to cause some kind of weird issue that these beings are going to live for a very long time? And God's like, no, 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 actually, we're not having that.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, I
Because
mean,
why else would there be some kind of time constraint on how long people live?
yes, and then like with the flood, one of the reasons the flood took place is because it was to wipe those people out. Although we see later on
We
we
got
didn't
more of them.
see there are more. Um so yeah, I mean, I'm sure part of that living really long had to do with I don't know then you think is it Methuselah? Is that his name? That lived the
Methuselah is one
longest?
of them. I mean, Adam lived over 900 years. Methuselah lived 969 years. Yes, there's some extremely lengthy lifespans in the Bible.
Well, and I just wonder too though, I wonder too if those people were living that long and they had special giftings because of that mixture of human and angelic whatever. They were able to do things that God never intended for us to be able
Mm.
to do. I mean, it really stepped outside of what His creation was.
I think that is right on the money. But I'm going to step back for a second and build a little foundational platform for our listeners here. So that phrase "sons of God," if you go look at the Hebrew, that is Ha Elohim.
Mhm.
And that translated into English is divine beings. So that Elohim word in Hebrew, that's how angels are referred to in the Old Testament. That's how demons are referred to in the Old Testament. In some cases, that's how God himself is referred to in the Old Testament. So I think there are some other explanations for Genesis 6, 1 through 4. I'm going to go deep on the giants explanation today, but there are people who say, oh, well, the sons of God, that's talking about the rulers over humanity at the time, or that's talking about the descendants of Seth after Cain killed Abel.
I
Adam and
did read
Eve
that.
later had a child named Seth, and these are descendants of Seth. And I, you know, one of the things that just frankly is a little bit frustrating to me about Genesis is it is kind of broad and sometimes there is a little bit of mystery to Genesis. But I'm not sure this is one of those places because I don't think you're going to refer to rulers of men or descendants of Seth. I don't think you're going to kind of use the Hebrew term for angels or God or demon. I think to me, that's a pretty clear indication that sons of God is talking about divine beings.
I would agree with that. And then the fact that we go on to refer to them as giants or as
Yes.
people that were outside of normal human characteristics, I think that speaks volumes as well, and kind of confirms to me that it's just not just some Seth's descendant and Cain's descendant.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make them super tall.
Right. And if it was just Seth's descendants, or if it were, say, the rulers of men, why are we getting four verses about this right before we go to the flood narrative?
Yeah,
What would be the purpose of that? Okay, well, yeah, so humans were having other humans with other humans. Well, great, that's been happening the whole time, right?
yeah.
So that word Nephilim, that's going to pop up later in the Old Testament, and that always pops up when you're talking about giants. So this offspring of these sons of God being referred to as Nephilim, it's got its own category in the Bible, and it's going to pop up in some other places. I am going to give you some other places where they pop up, but before I do that, I just want to get your handle or your sense of what are we supposed to do with these passages that are just so they seem so supernatural and out of touch and out of line with what you and I experience on a daily basis. I mean, you're talking about angels descending from heaven, having sexual relations with women and birthing offspring. That seems so out of the ordinary from everything that you and I live with. What are we supposed to do with this?
Well, I think it's fun to explore and to
Okay.
think about. Obviously, that's not the ultimate message of the word.
True.
But I do think when this was written, people had more understanding and context for this.
Okay.
And so I think it made more sense to them. And they were explaining, the reason it's in the word is it was explaining stuff that was more familiar to them at that time.
Hmm.
Um, but for us now, I just think I think it's nice to have a little mystery around God.
Okay. You like this.
I do because I think as I've gotten older, I appreciate the fact that there is stuff that we can never as humans understand about God.
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
have to explain away things. And so this kind of confirms that to me. There's mystery there, and there should be because it's supernatural.
It is
And
God.
it is God. God is God. And I can't as a human being fully understand that. And for some reason that just solidifies my faith,
Hmm.
knowing that it requires faith because that
Yes.
stuff is not normal in my human mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm at school with my contact rolled up in my eye, and this is talking about like angels having children with human women. That's just like two totally different things. There is something that I often do when I bump up into a passage of scripture, and my kind of initial reaction to it is like, okay, that's kind of far, isn't it? Like that. What's going on here? That's kind of a little far
Yeah.
out. I remind myself simply that this is what all Christians believe as foundational to our belief system, that there was a virgin woman who was overshadowed by God, who gave birth to a baby that was also God, who died and came back to life and ascended to heaven. And all of us are just like, well, yeah, right?
We just
We
believe it.
we believe it. And if you were to just like strip all the names, and if you were to somehow like, that little thing in Men in Black with the red light
Yeah.
and you just flash it and you forget everything. If
Yeah.
you were learning for that for the first time and you were just a normal person, you would be like, okay, well, hold on now. Right. But
Yeah.
we all just take that. And so if I've just read this, listeners, and you're like, okay, this is a little bit too far out there for me. Well, is Jesus too far out there for you? Because that's about
Yeah.
as far out there as it gets.
So do you think there's a particular reason that this was included? Okay. Because I mean, everything is included for a reason. And I guess maybe it's an explanation to get us to the next part. It has a message or a theme with it, right?
I think it helps to explain some of the behavior that you see in the Old Testament. And there's something specific I'm going to get to in a second here that is not in the outline that I just want to spring on you live and just see if I
Oh,
can knock you off your couch, maybe. I don't know. We should probably, for the sake of the listeners, though, we should probably just hit some other points in the Old Testament where there are giants. There are some obvious ones, like 1 Samuel 17 is Goliath. Also, Goliath's got brothers, and these bros all have like 6 fingers and 6 toes, and they're
which
huge.
is wild.
It is wild. And again, but again, though, this is something that as Christians, we are so familiar with the story of David. We're like, yeah, 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 Goliath, right? We don't even think about how did Goliath get there? Why is this guy almost 10 feet tall? How is he carrying around a spear the size of a weaver's beak, right? There's just details of this story that we have normalized to ourselves, so we don't even question it. But
Yeah.
that's far from the only place of giants in the Old Testament. In Numbers 13:33, there are the spies that go into the promised land. They talk about seeing Nephilim in Canaan, and they come back and they're like, guys, they got clusters of great, literally to Joshua and the rest of the people in the Old Testament. They're like, we're like grasshoppers.
I
These people,
love that line.
we can't take them. And so I don't know what you're thinking when you're seeing that. I think like we're talking about physically enormous beings, and they're like, there's no way we can beat these people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder, like you watch TV and you'll watch a basketball game and you see all these guys on there
Yeah.
and they just look normal. If I went down on the court, how would I feel
Oh,
walking around them?
yeah, they're
Um,
huge. I mean,
they're
I've been
huge.
down towards the floor in an NBA game, and when you see a seven, I mean, I'm 6'3", I'm pretty tall, but when you see somebody just at 7 feet, you're like, what
Yeah.
is, you know what I mean? Like it's just like kind of awe-inspiring, let alone like an almost 10-foot tall person.
Well, and it makes me think too, like nowadays, if we were to have somebody that was close to that tall, their body would not be proportioned right. I mean, they would have a lot of medical issues
Could
being
be, yeah,
close to, usually, right? Close to
yeah,
10 feet.
yeah. Nobody's ever been close. I mean, there's been some people over 8 feet, I think, but nobody's
Yeah.
in modern times that we've seen with
Okay.
photos or whatever. Nobody's been that tall.
So these guys seem like they're not just tall, but they're big. They are muscular
They're fighters.
men. They're
Goliath is the
yes.
champion of the Philistines. Yeah.
I always wonder what his voice sounded like too.
Oh man.
You can't
What
be
if,
that
what if
big
he
and
was
not have
like,
it.
"Hey, send out your best fighter"? What if it was like that? Like I'm sure it wasn't, but that'd be awesome if it
You
was.
just you'd
You
never
know,
know. It's
you don't
that
know.
movie theater. I got to watch the whole thing.
Yes, 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 yes. Deuteronomy chapter 2, Deuteronomy chapter 3 starts talking about Rephaim. Then there's this dude, Og, king of Bashan, who the Israelites fight against.
Og,
Then Og, yes, I'm sure he said his name like that too. Og.
Og.
He has a 13 and a half foot long iron bed that is 6 feet wide. Do you know why we know that? Because that's just a random detail given to us about him in the Bible. Why do you need a 13 and a half foot long bed? How long is your bed?
No, not that long. It's a queen
No,
size bed. It's not
mine's a
that
queen
long.
size bed too. I can almost hang off. I mean, my bed is probably 6.5. This is twice that size. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard of like California king size beds, but that dude has a water slide, in his bedroom. And like, why do we need that level? What is it about this detail? Why are we given this if he is not actually a gigantic human being?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I mean, I think he has to be. I mean, they have to be massive people. I mean, to me, it's one of these things. Why would you try to argue your way out of that? What
I
would be
don't know. It's right there.
it's right there. And I think because things can be so far fetched in the Bible, we want to
Yeah,
argue our way out of it. But like you said, and I love that point, we don't do that when it comes to the Virgin Mary, who never did anything to have a baby and then had a baby in a stable and Jesus was born and died and then raised from the dead. And then I think of Jonah and the whale.
sure.
Nobody questions Jonah being
Nope.
eaten
Parting
by
the
a
Red
whale.
Sea,
I
Elijah
know.
and the altar, all of these things that we're told in Sunday school that we become familiar. We just accept them. We have faith in them.
Yeah. Yeah. So why all of a sudden do we say this can't be real or this can't be right? And again, to me, it just reaffirms this idea of God being God and being so big
Yeah.
and great. It just reaffirms that for me.
That's what I want to spend most of the rest of the time that we have talking about is just the mystery versus our faith versus when the Bible makes us uncomfortable. But here's
Yeah.
the little theory that I promised you a couple of minutes ago. So I'm going to be open and honest with you and all of our listeners. There are parts to the Israel goes into the promised land and takes back the promised land story that make me kind of uncomfortable as a person because Israel is going in and they're tearing these cities down, and in some cases God's like, kill all the people in this city. And there's part of me reading these places in the Old Testament. I'm like, God, what is, I mean, God, if you say that you care about all the people on the earth, why are you telling one set of people to do, I don't know how else to phrase it, bad things to other sets of people? What if the promised land, what if that conquest was really about getting rid of these giants, getting rid of these half angel, half human people that were still there, that God was like, no, these, whoever we think these beings are, these sons of God, whether they were angels, whether they're aligned with God, whether they're aligned with Satan, whoever these people are, God's like, no, no, I'm not having that. We're not mixing these two things together. And so there are the descendants of these people living in the promised land. And we've got to go in and we've got to clear this out because this is not okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is a valid theory. I think it makes sense. My only question would be is do we see them conquering a bunch of other places that don't have the giants?
Well, I mean, Og, king of Bashan, is in the promised land, right? He's part of
Mm-hmm.
this. Goliath and the Philistines were supposed to have been cleared out of the promised land, but they weren't. And so they just kept being a thorn in Israel's side. So, no, I mean, as far as was the question you asked, I can't take you to every single tribe in the Old Testament that's cleared out of the promised land and say, well, see, there's their giant, there's their giant, there's their giant. But I just think it's interesting to think about if we don't have the name of all of these creatures that were born out of this union between angels and people. Is there some reason, like, is there some reason God wanted them cleared out? Does that help explain some of the actions of Israel in taking over the promised land?
Yeah, I think that it definitely does. And then I start to think these people were living in the promised land. These
Right.
people, these sons of God were living in the promised land. Of course they were. If they were the biggest and the baddest. And um, I'm trying to think how to put that into perspective. It's like the bully always has the really good stuff
True. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're the biggest and the roughest and toughest. And God's like, look, you were never intended to be here in the first place. We're taking back what already belongs to us.
Mm.
And I think it's if that theory is correct, I start to think that again, it's God tearing down the enemy, like the powers of darkness, and saying again, this is Old Testament version, but I'm pulling you out of the promise I was going to give to my people. So maybe it's foreshadowing for what is to come, where he then works in the spiritual realm and tears
Well, yeah,
down.
Jesus does. I mean, what is Jesus doing in the New Testament if not tearing down the giants of the spiritual kingdom of Satan on the earth, right? It's just there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. In the Old Testament, it's these beings. In the New Testament, here we are on the spiritual realm, but Jesus is doing the same kind of stuff.
Yeah, it makes me excited for when we're in heaven to sit next to an Israelite that was there during
Mm.
that time to get their perspective. Like I want to know, what did you think with these people? What were you viewing? What were you experiencing? How did you guys feel about them? Because again, I think there's a lot of context that we don't fully get
Yeah.
because of what their mindset was and what they understood at that time.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I agree with you. I think that the ancient audience for these scriptures probably lived and had experience or had like passed down stories in their family where a lot of this stuff is real to them. And then when we read these scriptures in modern times, sometimes we try to explain them away because our world doesn't function like this anymore. We don't have demigods running it, right? Those ideas are uncomfortable to us because we're not used to them and we don't interface with certain things about this. So how do we ride this line of uncomfortability? Like if there's a spot in the Bible that it just lays it out and you feel kind of uncomfortable with that, or you're not used to that, or that's not usually the way that you think, how are we supposed to kind of ride that line and deal with those areas of uncertainty in the Bible? Because it's not just this stuff. There's stuff all over the place in the Bible that can make you feel kind of weird.
Yeah, I think part of it is exposure
Okay.
and being brave enough to read it and to explore it. And for some of our listeners, it could be for me this is so normal because I grew up like this, but like speaking in tongues, for example,
Mm.
it is something that's very supernatural. And I feel like there are people in especially in our world today who read that and they're uncomfortable with the idea of it because it is out there. It is weird knowing that like there's this spiritual thing happening that takes over your tongue and you speak in another language. Um, I think that's a prime example of today something that people kind of push away because it's too uncomfortable as well.
Mm.
Um, but I think the way to overcome that again is to explore it and get comfortable by reading about it, getting context, talk to people that have experienced it. Do this kind of conversation with
Yeah.
people you care about.
Yeah. I think a key too is that discomfort does not mean that it's not true, right? Because we're not familiar with something or because we are stepping in, for us, we're stepping into this new information or this new story or something that we're not used to. It doesn't automatically make the pieces of the story wrong because we're not familiar with them. I mean, Hannah, I don't know if you get this way, but even as a like a full-grown mature adult, when I've got to go into a place that I'm unfamiliar with, there is still like a part of me way on the inside that's it's a little hesitant, it's a little
Yes.
anxious about it, right? But I mean, I've never gone into a place and gotten severely like beaten or hurt or something. So it
No,
doesn't mean
no.
that the place is wrong. It just means that I'm not familiar with it. And there's some kind of like excitement in terms of exploration. But I think you're right in that if there are places that make us feel uncomfortable in the Bible, I think the thing to do is to not run the other way from it. I think the thing to do is to sit down in it
Yeah,
and really explore and see while, and I think you hinged at this, I think it's okay to like have your guard up
sure.
and try to guard your heart because there's a lot of scripture about that, right? About guarding your heart and testing the spirit. So I don't think you have to run out there and believe every theory that somebody posts online about the Bible, but I think it's okay to sit in what makes you uncomfortable in the word and see where it takes you and pray, but talk to God about it.
Yeah, because I love kind of how you said that. I don't think that discomfort equals discernment. And I
Mm.
think
Oh,
sometimes
that was better than what I said. That's frustrating.
it was kind of like what you said though. But it's true. We feel uncomfortable in situations, and I believe this is human nature. We're uncomfortable, and so we start to think our spirit is discerning. Oh, that can't be right. We've been taught
Okay.
this way our whole life, or
Mm.
we've grown up in a home that doesn't do this certain kind of thing. So we think that discomfort discerns us and is telling us, oh, this must not be right. But like you said, when you begin to sit down in the uncomfortable and start to explore it, that's when you can make an educated decision and a spiritual decision to say, oh, this is not something that I feel like I should allow into my spirit. Or, you know what? Maybe this is something I need to be open to,
Yeah.
but we can't confuse the two.
I think the most interesting thing to me about stuff like this in the Bible, and this is probably the reason I like this stuff the most, is when we're like interfacing with these things that kind of push us outside of what we're comfortable, it leads you to ask the question, like maybe not consciously, but you're asking yourself the question, do I really have enough faith to believe this? And so you have
Yeah.
to, I consider myself to be an educated, logical person, and I know that you do too.
Mm-hmm.
But is there room in this educated, logical, mature part of me for a Bible that maybe hints at the fact that angelic beings had children with human women and they were gigantic and had special abilities and God wanted them taken out? Do I have like, am I going to believe this or am I not going to believe this? And if that is not the central question of everything that there is about in the Bible, I don't know what it is.
Well, I think God's goal is to push us into the uncomfortable, to push
Hmm.
us into places where we're forced to think outside of what's a normal human thought process.
Hmm.
And I think we have to be willing to do that. I mean, that to me is Christ centered. And that to me goes back to that like dying daily and being open to his word. And like you said, it's a faith thing. I've grown up in this, we've grown up in this our whole lives.
Yeah.
So there are parts of us that we've been conditioned to believe what we believe because it's what we've always believed.
Right.
But I feel like if you don't push and open up to the uncomfortable, sometimes you're just falling in line with what you've always been taught.
We are, but it feels so dangerous. And especially for people like you and I who've grown up in the church and we've always known the church. And it's almost like, and you've done a great job talking about this on episodes before. It's almost like if you open yourself to other things, you're somehow like betraying what you've known or you've been taught your whole life. Like, no, 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 no. Stay within this comfort zone, stay within this safety zone. And there are times when you open yourself to a new idea or you sit in an uncomfortable passage in the Bible that it's like you're stepping outside of that safety zone, even though you're still in the Bible. And I don't know. I guess the fear is there's somehow you're going to lose your faith or it's going to go too far. It's going to take you down the wrong road. It's just so interesting how that is true for especially people who've been in the church for a long time. I mean, do you identify with that?
I do. I really do. And I feel like I struggled with that for a long time, pushing those boundaries um, to see, what do I believe? What do I agree with? What don't I agree with? And I have found every time when I say push, I don't mean going and acting and behaving however you want.
Sure.
I mean, whenever I start to question and start to look into the word and I start to listen to sermons and this is important, talking to people
Yeah.
who I trust and just have these open conversations, it solidifies my faith more than it pushes me out of my
Mm.
faith. And I think I was taught the opposite for a long
Hmm.
time. Be careful about education. Be careful with this. Be careful what you allow into yourself. And there's truth
There
to
is.
that.
Yeah.
But if you are seeking God, and then it takes me back to the fruit of the, or not the fruit of the spirit, when we talked about our different gifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only way you can access those
Yeah.
is through prayer and fasting and seeking God. I think this is the same thing. And when you seek God and you get that discernment, then you can explore this stuff
Mm.
um, with God's spirit leading you in discernment.
I just wonder because so much of our life is, again, to just throw Drew under the bus, mundane. It's the normal stuff. It's you get in your car. It's just like life stuff. I'm gonna make myself a cup of coffee. I'm gonna follow up with this person. I'm gonna send a text. I'm gonna be at work. All that stuff. None of that is supernatural. All of that is within our control. Everything about that is normal to us and safe to us. It's so great that you brought up those like mystical spiritual gifts we were talking about because all that stuff, that like word of knowledge and prophecy and some of those things that are not normal. It's almost like to me they all go in the same bucket with like giants. And I mean,
Yeah.
we kind of do it unconsciously, but like Jesus Christ himself, right? And so it's almost like we want to like strip ourselves and divorce ourselves from everything that's supernatural in the Bible. And what's easier for us to hang on to is be a good person, make good choices, treat people how you would be treated, like things that make sense to us because we're human and we almost shy away from that supernatural stuff.
Yeah. And then it makes me wonder, I mean, are we really living for God
Mm,
if we're walking in the comfortable all the time?
mm.
Um, because the Bible talks about you'll do greater things than these, greater than what Jesus
Yeah.
did. And he was healing, he was raising people from the dead, he was spending time with people that were outside of the religious people. And if we're not experiencing those things, I really feel like we're not living out the word of God. And then I think of all these songs we sing. There are so many songs, like another one is on the way, miracle
Yeah.
after miracle.
Yeah.
You sing all of this stuff and we get excited and we're rejoicing. We're like, oh my gosh. But when the rubber meets the road, do we really believe in that miracle?
Yeah.
Because I saw a video yesterday of a guy whose eyes were healed when he came out of the water being baptized. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
Well, should it be? I mean, we should rejoice and be
Sure.
excited, but should it be that wild? Are
Mm.
we missing something because we're not tapping into the spiritual realm, or we're not open to it because we're so caught up in the mundane?
Yeah. I, I yes, I think we're missing things. I mean, to just answer that clearly, I think so. But then I also think that, and I mean, just to be open and honest with our listeners, I'm more or less subscribed to this angels with women and giants. I more or less, I think that's what the Bible means. And even as I'm saying that out loud on a podcast where I feel safe with you, like you're one of the safest people I feel like in the world with me talking about stuff, there is still part of me that catches because it's
Yeah.
like I put myself into this different category of, okay, now I believe some weird things now, and it's
Yeah.
like it changes my identity because I have latched onto what I think the Bible's saying.
I completely agree and relate to that because
Okay.
saying some of this stuff, I'm like, um, not a regular, like a lot of Christians would be like, what are you talking about?
Yes. What are you talking about?
But and this is not because I've read the Bible more. This is because
Right.
we've had these conversations.
Yeah.
It's there. I mean, it's there. You
It's
can't get
right there.
around that. And so, I mean, I'm still open to hearing other theories and what people
Sure.
think, but it pretty well tells us these angels were having children with women,
Yeah.
right? That were human. And so, why do I feel so uncomfortable saying
Mm.
when I'm just reading from the Word of God? You know, why do I feel uncomfortable?
I think that speaks to the nature of it's like the elemental nature of how we define ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like a super insidious thing that I don't think happens on a conscious level. But really what you and I are saying is we're more comfortable like just fitting in with everybody else and not
Yeah.
standing out and not believing something. And worse than that, if we were to label, I mean, I almost feel like I need to get like one of those little tinfoil hats and I need to be showing up at some of these like conferences where like the real, we're just real far out there stuff. I think I should say this too. There are other theories in the Bible that like some of Ezekiel's visions are about aliens and spacecraft, and I don't believe those things. So
Sure.
I'm not just going to believe every like quote unquote weird thing that I run into. I try to be judicious about it, and I try to be discerning about it. And I try to see what makes sense. So I'm not just chasing everything. But yeah, it is so weird for you and I who've grown up, and frankly, some of the things that you and I are comfortable with in church, most of Christianity is not comfortable with in
Yeah.
church, and yet you and I don't really get nonplussed about any of that stuff. But it's this kind of thing that we're still on this podcast. We're like, yeah, I think we kind of believe it, sort of.
Yeah. And but what's crazy is like the alien stuff,
Yeah.
it's not spelling that out. This spells it out. You know, it is there. And I don't know how you preach a message on it, but I've never heard it taught or
No.
talked about until you and I have had conversations even prior to this episode. So it is crazy that we feel uncomfortable confirming that we believe that.
Yeah. I think what we've mostly talked about today, and listeners, you can buy the giant thing. You don't have to buy the giant thing. If you don't want to, it's not, you and I can go to the same church and we can worship and I'm not going to be mad at you.
Absolutely.
I mean, I do think it's there, but that's not to say that I have to decide what you have to believe. But I think what we've really uncovered is this much more interesting conversation about what makes us comfortable and what makes us uncomfortable and how we react when we're in those kinds of situations. And really what that says about us, what that says about our faith, what it says about the deepest core parts of us, that it is very easy for you and I to say, I believe in the word and I have faith in Jesus. But when it's actually put to the test and you actually have to stand behind something that seems kind of crazy, that is a much harder thing to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely is.
It is. So, listeners, again, you don't have to be sold on any of this. I would also, I mean, every episode, I would love for you to write in and tell us. I especially would love for you to write in and tell us, send us
Please
other
do.
theories. I would read them. I would gladly interface with someone. I'm a huge Bible nerd, and I would love to do that. We do want to thank you for joining us today. We always enjoy going beyond Sundays and hope that you enjoyed our conversation. If you have any thoughts or comments, think we're crazy, or anything else about this topic, please reach out to us. Go to beyondsundays.pod.com for our show links and socials. And until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you.